Alright, this is part 2 of the lecture on monopolistic competition. In this part, we're going to go over graphical analysis, so creating graphs of what equilibrium looks like in the long and short-term run. If you don't know where we are right here, starting on this slide, monopolistic competition in the short run. So again, short run does not have a specific time frame, it's just shorter periods of time. Depending on the firm, it might be a day, it might be a month, it might be a year. But just like all firms, firms in monopolistic competition aim to maximize profits. This is the whole goal of a business. You want to make as much money above your costs as possible. So you want your total revenue minus your total cost to be as big as possible. When does this happen? It happens when the last product you sell is you make as much money on that last product, so the marginal revenue is the same as how much it costs, the marginal cost. So we sell until marginal revenue equals marginal cost. If I can sell a good for $7 and it costs me $5, I'm going to keep selling until I can sell for $6.50 and it costs me $6.50. At that point, it's a wash. I'll sell that good, and then beyond that, I'm not going to sell. So we sell when marginal revenue equals marginal cost. It, however, is not equal to price because the firm in monopolistic competition faces a downward sloping demand curve. This is because it has a monopoly on its own products, so there's less demand as price goes up. Unlike with perfect competition, and I'll draw these out. In perfect competition, we had a flat curve. That's perfect competition. This is going to be your demand curve for monopolistic competition right there. So you're going to get a slightly different picture because you have an elastic or inelastic demand rather than a perfectly elastic demand. All right, let's continue on. So in the short run, you can get profits or losses. And these can look two different ways, so let's break these down a little. I'd recommend going over this a couple times in the lecture. So on this side over here, we have our profits. Here you can see, and let me just set this up so you can see, okay? Okay. So here you can see we've got our marginal revenue right here in green, and that is going down, and we sell until we meet our marginal cost. Marginal cost is red, so that's the point we're going to sell. That's the quantity right there. So we sell this much. What is the price? Well, the demand is this blue curve right here, so we're going to sell at that price, which is right here. So that's our price over there. All right, what about the costs? Well, here's the marginal cost, but average total cost is a little higher. That's right here. So it's our average total cost. So we're selling higher than our average cost, which means we're going to make profit. That's good for the business. That's money. So that means profit. Over here on the right side, now we have a loss. The opposite is happening. Again, we sell until marginal revenue equals marginal cost. That's where we maximize profits. But here maximizing profits means we're still losing money. Why is this? It is because here is your price right there. Here is your average total cost right there. Average total costs are higher than price. That means you're going to lose that money. That right there is negative dollars. So that's the short run. That's how this is going to work. So I'd recommend going back, maybe even watch that once or twice, take those notes over, and I'll post the annotated notes in the folder as well. So what happens in the long run? Well, as I mentioned earlier, there's no barriers to entry, no barriers to exit. So a firm can without any costs, enter or exit the market. So this means if you're making money, let's say one firm is making money or all the firms are making money, other firms will enter that market to try to get some of that money. What happens when other firms enter? Price goes down, they can produce more, and eventually those profits reach zero. What happens if we're losing money? Well, if we're losing money, a firm's going to leave. If I'm not making any money, I'm going to shut my business down. I leave in the long run, and that means there's less good, and prices will go up until economic profits reach zero. So in competition, monopolistic or perfect competition, free entry and exit allow the firm to, or a firm, force a firm to have zero economic profits eventually. Key point right here. This is where price equals average total cost equals demand, and it's where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So we're going to look at this in a second. It's where demand is tangent to the average total cost. So let's take a look at what this looks like. This is a fun graph. So now we have our demand curve, which is the average revenue. Right here, that's your demand, your average revenue. You can view those as the same thing. So you've got that, and it is downward sloping. What's going to happen is we're going to sell where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. That's right here. But what is also going to occur there is you're going to have your demand tangent. That means it hits at one point, so it's tangent to your average total cost. That means price is equal to average total cost. So price is equal to average total cost. That means the costs of each good and the revenues for each good are the same. That means that there is zero economic profit. The difference here is marginal revenue and marginal cost are below this. So they're lower, and we'll talk about this later. It's called excess capacity, and we'll talk about what that means. So how does this occur in the real world? Let's break this down piece by piece and take a look at what occurs. So I'm going to flip the computer around. Just get a good drawing. So we're going to create this from scratch. Again, we're going to have price and quantity on our axes, like every graph we've drawn. Price, quantity. And we are going to have a downward sloping demand. So this is our demand. Right, that is demand. So we're going to have marginal revenue. Let me just take a look back. I'm going to cheat for a second. Yep, marginal revenue, marginal cost increasing. Yep, okay, so marginal revenue decreases as we go. And marginal cost increases. So here is the quantity we're going to sell, and that is marginal cost. This point right here is critical. That's what we sell at. That is our quantity. So, well, what happens? It depends. In this case, we need to know where our average total cost is. So let's say average total cost is, and I'm going to do this in blue, right here. Something like that. Here's average total cost. Here is the price. So we've got price got average total cost. Price is above average total cost. That means we are going to make some profit. And I realize this graph's a little off, but that is profit. So what will happen in this case, so this is the short run. In the long run, this is not going to happen. What will happen? I want you to think about that for a second. Well, people are making money. Other people see them making money. What are those other people going to do? They're going to enter the market. And as they enter the market, so before we were making money, here's the profit. This is exactly what we just did. Now, other firms enter. You got the same marginal cost, but now our average costs shift, and what we're going to get is this tangency point right here. I want to point that out. So it happens at exactly one point where the average revenue equals the average cost, and there are 0 economic profits. You can go across and you can see that average total cost is equal to price, which means there's no profit. So just a couple key takeaways. First, as in a monopoly, price can exceed marginal cost, and where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, and this can result in profit. But this only happens in the short term, because in the long term there are no barriers to entry, which means other firms can enter or firms in the market can leave until economic profits are 0. So again, like any firm, we're trying to profit maximize, and they make the same decisions as any firm. They sell where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. I want to emphasize this so much. A firm will always sell when its marginal revenue, the last good it sells, is the same price as the cost it took to make that good. So I will sell a good for $7.01 if it costs me $7. I will not sell a good for $7 if it costs me $7.01 to make it. I will sell up to that point, and then you can use that point to determine what else is going on in the market.